Okay, hello, I just wanted to film a quick video to talk about my October TBR. Sorry about the glare on my glasses, but I'm using a ring light for the first time and I'm using a different lens that I normally don't use, so I really need my glasses to see whether the setup works or not. So you're going to see like the glare on the glasses. So I'm sorry about that. I will figure this out next time I film, hopefully. But yeah, this video is going to be mostly about what I'm going to read during Victober. But before I get to it, I would like to mention two like modern contemporary books that I would like to read in October to kind of not overwhelm myself with the classics and have just other things I can reach for. And I feel like the classics are a bit too much for me. So let's start with that. If you only care about the Victober TBR, skip to this time. But the two books I would like to read are, firstly, Briefly A Delicious Life by Nell Stevens. I have mentioned this book in my August book haul, and this book is supposedly about George Sand and Frédéric Chopin, who encounter a ghost, maybe. And the ghost, I think the ghost falls in love with George Sand, so this is like a sapphic story. So yeah, this is historical fiction, and yeah, I really love the cover. I really hope I will get to it. And the second thing is also something I mentioned in that book haul, which is Cold Enough for Snow by Jessica Howe. This is about a mother and daughter. It's a novella, it's less than 100 pages long. I think they travel to Tokyo and it's just about their relationship. And supposedly it's a good fall read because it's called Cold Enough for Snow. So also I feel like Briefly A Delicious Life is also a good autumnal read, because I actually wanted to start it earlier, but then I realized that the first part starts in November and the story goes from November throughout December and ends in January. So I think this would be a very nice autumnal / winter read. And now let's get to the Victober TBR. I will link all the hosts and co-hosts in the description. And here are the challenges. Kate's challenge is read a Victorian work with chronic illness or disability representation. This is a bit hard because there aren't that many Victorian novels where the main character is someone with a disability or chronic illness. There are quite a few where like more of a like background character has a disability or something, but the main character, that's kind of hard to find. I really would like to read Poor Mrs. Finch, but I don't have that book yet. And that book is about a woman who is blind, I believe, and supposedly this is actually a pretty good representation, like for a Victorian novel, but I don't have it. And what I do have, and what I think Katie from Books and Things mentioned, I have the Moonstone by Wilkie Collins, and supposedly there is some disability representation in this book. So I'm gonna believe Katie from Books and Things, she said so. So I'm going to read that. And I don't know much about this book, but it's about a moonstone, I guess, that gets stolen, and it's one of, if not the first detective novel. But also it says, like in the very beginning, it says The Moonstone, a romance. So I'm just like, what is the genre of this? Who is like the targeted audience? But I guess it's going to be a sensation novel, just like The Woman in White was, and just like The Woman in White, I'm guessing it's going to have quite a few different perspectives, and I'm very excited about that. Next we have Marissa's challenge, read a Victorian short story. With this one I'm just going to read one or two or maybe a few short stories from this collection. It's the complete short stories collection by Oscar Wilde from Oxford Words Classics. I have read a few, but the one that I would like to read this year would be The Model Millionaire and maybe The Happy Prince. They're only a few pages long, and The Happy Prince, I think it's a fairy tale, and normally I don't really like fairy tales, but I would like to see Oscar Wilde's take on a fairy tale. I feel like it's going to be quite entertaining. I'm skipping around when it comes to the challenges, but you will know why later. So next one would be Ross's challenge. Read a work of Victorian poetry, long or short. This is something I bought a few days ago because I don't really read poetry, so I was researching what I could read. I've read Emily Bronte's poetry and Emily Dickinson's poetry, and I didn't like either of them. So I found Christina Rossetti's Goblin Market. Quite a lot of people read this, so I'm not sure if this is something people like in America or maybe in England read for school, but a lot of people really liked it, so I'm going to give it a shot. And the last two challenges, which I had a bit of a problem with finding the right book for, but the last two are Katie's challenge, which is read a Victorian Bildungsroman / coming of age story. My initial plan was to read Wives and Daughters for this challenge and Petra's challenge, which is read a Victorian book and watch a screen adaptation of it. Because I do believe there's a, I want to say BBC adaptation of this book that's supposedly really good. I don't remember which year it's from, I will put it on screen. But I felt a bit bad for like reading one book for two different challenges, even though you totally can do it. But I kept researching what else I could read, and what I came up with is that I'm going to read this book for read a Victorian book and watch an adaptation of it. And I'm going to read Jill by Dillwyn for the Read a Bildungsroman challenge. So supposedly this is a bit of a stretch because I think the main character is a teenager when the story starts, and technically I feel like it should be a child if it's a coming of age / a Bildungsroman story. But Katie, who like came up with the challenge, said we can stretch it a bit, and she did mention this book when she was recommending books for this challenge, so I'm not cheating, she said I can do it. It took me quite some time to find a right book, because everything, I feel like so many Victorian books are like super long, and I already have, you know, Wives and Daughters and the Moonstone. So Wives and Daughters is like 800 pages long, the Moonstone is like 600 pages long, so I already feel like I have a lot on my plate for October. And Jill is like 350 pages, which isn't that bad for a Victorian novel. And when I was looking it up on Goodreads, you know how there are like tags? So obviously it said like Victorian, and in the tags it said this book is like, I think it had tags called LGBT and queer, and I was like, no, hold on a second. I don't really know much about the plot, but supposedly it's going to be queer, and immediately I was like, you know what, I'm gonna read that. So if I feel like I have too much on my plate, I'm just going to read Wives and Daughters for two challenges, and that's fine. But I really hope I can read Jill too, because it sounds really fascinating, and it doesn't have that many ratings, so it would be fun to read like a very underrated Victorian novel. And yeah, that's everything. I'm really excited for October. I feel like I might read one more book, like contemporary or something, in between, so I can break up all the classics. But I want to leave some room for like mood reading, so we'll see what I feel like. Maybe I will read like an Agatha Christie, some kind of thriller, because it's October. But we'll see. I don't want to like put too much pressure on myself, because I could like choose one more book, but I just kind of want to see how I feel and figure it out in October. Also, I'm not going to participate in reading the, what is it called? Group read, because it's The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy, because Hardy and we don't get along, so I'm not gonna do that to myself. But yeah, I'm still very excited, and that's all. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next video. Bye!